I'm going to tell you a story now about profiling language learners and how well do you know your learners and their life worlds. This comes from an experience with teachers at the School of Languages, and I know that there are many of you here, and you've probably wondered, what on earth is that thing? What does it actually mean? Quite colourful, quite interesting. She asked her students to depict themselves as language learners, as language users, and how languages matter in their lives. And this is the drawing that she received unexpectedly. She had not particularly said, you should just represent your languages and cultures. And then, of course, she asked the student to write it in words. And let me say with you, I'll read it line by line. This is my representation on how I sort of see myself in the viewing of a culturally perceptive eye. I called it past, present, language, culture. So in the corner, he's thinking past, present, language, culture, recognising that his language is part of the past, but also here in the present. I called it past, present, language, culture because I feel, with my ethnic background, that over the years I have extended myself in the understandings of the cultures around me, as well as developed the culture I abide by or perceive as my culture. So far, opening to the future, so far I have grown up in a strict environment where you must be independent from early on. Also, I feel, growing up and learning two languages, English and Polish, I saw two different sides of culture, values, and ways of communication. This is why I love languages so much. Along with learning Indonesian in the IB, which was the language he was learning at the School of Languages, I have also taken the responsibility to self-teach myself Arabic and continue self-teaching Swedish from last year. Languages and culture have shaped me in a way that I feel so intrigued and fascinated by different ethnic values, backgrounds, styles of art, languages, and the ways of life from perspective to routine. I feel like I get a better understanding of the world around me. And you can see images from his Polish self. You can see images coming in there from the Arabic. You can see the different languages, and that this somehow meshed together into creating one holistic picture of who that student was, linguistically and culturally speaking. Andrea had been teaching him for some time. This, of course, gave her a richness of information that she had simply not known. We think that there's a lot of information about our students that is rich and oftentimes hidden. And so the question of how well do we know our learners, it's not just in the interests of social chit-chat and so on, important though that also is, but how well do we know our learners such that we can facilitate with them their making connections across their different languages and cultures, across the different experiences that they bring. What do you make of this? What have you seen in this?
So because I'm trained in biology, it looks like a double membrane cell membrane, and the culture is seeping out of her.
Yes, indeed. This is the lovely thing about an artistic representation, because we can see more and more in it as we go. I don't know if in your own work you have tried these kinds of activities. This is the task, this is the way that Andrea herself had actually asked the students to profile themselves. And so you've got the full display here. She's saying which languages I already speak, I have learned previously, I understand but maybe don't speak, I hear spoken around me. And isn't it wonderful that across that first bar, Andrea is asking them to express not only the ones that they do, that they're learning, of course, and the ones that they have in their background, but others that they might have encountered in some way. And so the recognition of all the languages and cultures that are somehow affiliated with the learner. Add notes if you want to explain or clarify. So Andrea was leaving it open to explain or clarify, and certainly this student was more than willing to explain and clarify. She then goes to cultures and the different backgrounds, countries visited, have studied or currently studying the culture, regularly see the culture. She's trying to entertain in the second bar the different kinds of cultural affiliation that the students might have had. And then optional, this was the optional part, draw an image that represents you linguistically and culturally. Feel free to add labels, headings, and so on. And we saw the upshot of that. Now, the question is, first and foremost, have you ever actually profiled your learners? We are profoundly of the view, Michelle and I, that in this kind of orientation to language learning that we're talking about, the student and understanding the student is absolutely central. Can you see that there are many, many, many different ways? When I was teaching in schools, I would put at the bottom of some kind of worksheet, it might have even been at the end of a test, a written test, and I'd have a couple of questions that would just fill my mind with more and more about the students. Whichever way you use, that is valuable information. It is, and I can guarantee that you will find out things about your students that you have not known before. And it's more than just I like footy or I like tennis or I like watching blah, blah, blah on TV. It's getting into some of the stuff as to what all of this means to the learners. 2 additional comments. 1, it's only meaningful and worthwhile to do it if we then take it seriously and if we show our students that we're taking note of this information and that it becomes visible in the work that we do with them. It's also important that it's not just a one-off event, that we actually do it periodically, organically. Let it arise from the work that you're doing, but every now and then have another process that tells us more and more and more. I could even see some of these profiles going up on a class site with due permissions and all the rest of it. The students would find each other's profiles absolutely fascinating, and we don't do enough of that crossover across the students that we have. They themselves are examples of diversity. We don't have to talk about diversity. It is live and present right there in front of us. Let us use it and let us work with it for each individual's learning and for collective learning.